blade fell to the deck with a metallic clatter that echoed throughout the Galvari warship, followed immediately by the mocking laughter of 6 alien soldiers. Their tall, 4-armed frames shook with mirth as they surrounded the lone human captive, the only survivor from the research vessel they had ambushed near Saturn's rings. Ryan Norris watched as one of the Galvari kicked his combat knife across the polished floor with a clawed foot. The alien's purple skin glistened under the bright lights of the detention area, compound eyes blinking in rapid succession. This is what humans bring to battle. The lead Galvari, Commander Kazarek, lifted his massive energy shield, the transparent barrier humming with power as he gestured to his comrades. Their most advanced weapons barely scratch our armor, yet this one brings a primitive cutting tool? Ryan remained on his knees, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. The research vessel had been his home for 3 years, cataloging the chemical compositions of Saturn's outer rings when the Galvari attack came without warning. His crewmates had died in the initial assault, 15 good people gone in seconds. Only Ryan had survived, hiding in an emergency pod until the aliens found him. "I'm a scientist, not a soldier," Ryan said, his voice steady despite the terror coursing through his veins. "The knife is for collecting samples." This brought another round of laughter from the aliens. Their translator devices rendered their chittering sounds into English with an unsettling accuracy. "Humans," scoffed another Galvari, this one with an elaborate crest of spines running down its back. "So fragile, yet so arrogant. Your species should have accepted our terms when we entered your system." Ryan knew what those terms were. Earth had received the Galvari transmission 18 months ago. The aliens demanded access to half of Earth's water reserves in exchange for technological knowledge. When humanity refused, the Galvari began targeting outlying research and mining operations, starting with the lunar bases, then moving outward to Mars, and now Saturn. Commander Kazarek stepped forward, his shield lowering slightly as he bent to examine Ryan more closely. This one might have useful information about Earth's defenses. Prep him for interrogation. 2 of the Galvari moved to grab Ryan, but he was quicker than they anticipated. 3 years in reduced gravity had strengthened his reflexes in ways the aliens hadn't accounted for. He lunged forward, rolling past Commander Kazarek and snatching his knife from the floor in one fluid motion. The aliens reacted with surprising slowness, their confidence having made them careless. Ryan knew he had mere seconds before they would overpower him. He didn't aim for their bodies, armored as they were with exoskeletons and battle plating. Instead, he slashed at the one thing within reach, Commander Kazarek's shield emitter. The knife, a high-carbon steel blade designed for extreme conditions, connected with the emitter's power coupling. There was a moment of resistance as metal met alien technology, then a give as the blade sliced through circuitry. The shield flickered, wavered, and then split perfectly down the middle before dissolving entirely. The laughter stopped instantly. Commander Kazarek staggered backward, his 4 arms flailing in surprise as his shield, the pinnacle of Galvari defensive technology, collapsed into uselessness. The other soldiers froze, their compound eyes fixed on the human who had just done the impossible. "How?" Kazarek demanded, his translated voice crackling with rage. "No human weapon has penetrated our shields." Ryan stood now, knife in hand, understanding dawning on him. The Galvari shields weren't designed to stop physical objects moving at low velocity. They were tuned to energy weapons and high-speed projectiles, the very technologies humans had been using to fight them. "Your shields are calibrated for lasers and bullets," Ryan said, his scientific mind rapidly assessing the situation. "Not for something as simple as a knife." One of the other Galvari raised a weapon, but Kazarek held up a hand to stop him. The commander's multiple eyes narrowed, reassessing the human before him. "Interesting," Kazarek said. "Perhaps we have underestimated your species' capacity for adaptation." Ryan knew his momentary advantage wouldn't last. 5 armed Galvari still surrounded him, and he was trapped on their ship with no way to escape. But he had revealed a critical weakness in their defenses, and if he could somehow get this information back to Earth. The detention area doors slid open with a hydraulic hiss, and an even larger Galvari entered. This one wore elaborate armor with glowing runes etched into its surface. The soldiers immediately straightened to attention. "Shipmaster Vrekel," Commander Kazarek said, bowing slightly. "We were just preparing this human for interrogation." The newcomer surveyed the scene, the broken shield emitter, the humans standing with knife in hand, the unsettled soldiers. "I see," Vrekel said, his translator rendering his voice deeper and more resonant than the others. "And it appears this human has discovered something about our technology." Ryan gripped his knife tighter, knowing that whatever happened next would determine not just his fate, but potentially that of Earth as well. The shipmaster's compound eyes fixed on him with an unsettling intensity. "You have a choice, human," Vrekel said. "Cooperate and share your knowledge willingly, or we will extract it. The first path might offer you some measure of continued existence." Ryan considered his options. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and stranded on an alien warship millions of miles from any human assistance, but he also possessed knowledge that could change the course of the conflict. "I'll cooperate," he said finally, lowering his knife slightly. "On one condition, you tell me why you really need Earth's water." The request seemed to surprise the Galvari shipmaster. After a moment's hesitation, Vrekel nodded. "Your condition is acceptable. Come with me to the command deck. I will show you why we have come to your system." Two soldiers moved to flank Ryan, but made no attempt to take his knife. The discovery of the shield vulnerability had clearly altered their perception of the human weapon. As they escorted him through the corridors of the massive ship, Ryan carefully observed everything he could: the layout, the technology, the number of crew members they passed. The command deck was a vast chamber dominated by a holographic display of the solar system. Earth appeared as a blue jewel against the blackness of space, surrounded by orbital defenses that the Galvari had clearly been monitoring. "You believe we desire your water merely for consumption or fuel," Vrekel said, gesturing to the display. "The truth is more complex." With a wave of his hand, the shipmaster brought up an image of another star system. At its center burned a dying red star, surrounded by planets that showed signs of massive ecological devastation. "Our homeworld is dying," Vrekel explained. "The radiation from our sun has poisoned our water supplies. We need Earth's water not just for drinking, but for its unique properties." "What properties?" Ryan asked. His scientific curiosity piqued despite his situation. "Your planet's water contains a higher concentration of deuterium than any we have encountered. We need it to fuel our terraforming technology to save what remains of our civilization." Ryan processed this information. "But your approach attacking our outposts, demanding resources, that's hardly the way to ask for help." Vrekel's posture stiffened. "We tried diplomacy with other species before. They promised aid, then betrayed us once they understood our weaknesses. We will not make that mistake again." Before Ryan could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The holographic display shifted to show 3 vessels approaching rapidly, human vessels. "Impossible!" Commander Kazarek exclaimed. "No human ships have the capability to reach Saturn this quickly." Ryan recognized the designs immediately prototyped faster than light vessels that had been in development when he left Earth. It seemed the Galvari threat had accelerated humanity's technological progress. "They've tracked your attack on our research station," Ryan said, allowing himself a small smile, "and it looks like they've brought something new to the fight." Shipmaster Vrekel turned to his crew, issuing rapid commands in the Galvari language. The ship shuddered as it began powering weapon systems. Ryan knew his moment of opportunity had arrived. With the crew distracted by the approaching human vessels, Ryan slipped away from his guards and moved toward a control panel. His 3 years studying alien technology on the research station hadn't been wasted. He recognized enough of the Galvari system architecture to identify the shield controls. Just as Vrekel noticed his movement and shouted a warning, Ryan plunged his knife into the main shield generator. Sparks exploded from the panel as the blade severed critical connections, and throughout the ship, the defensive barriers flickered and died. The command deck erupted into chaos. Ryan was tackled by two Galvari soldiers, his knife wrenched from his grasp. As they pinned him to the floor, the ship rocked violently. The human vessels had opened fire, their weapons now finding vulnerable targets without the Galvari shields. "You've doomed us all!" Commander Zarek raged, looming over Ryan. "No," Ryan countered, grimacing as the alien's grip tightened painfully around his arms. "I've given both our species a chance for something better than war." The ship rocked again with another impact, sending several Galvari stumbling. The lighting flickered, and emergency sirens added to the cacophony of alarms already blaring. Shipmaster Vrekul moved to a communications array, his four arms working multiple controls simultaneously. After a moment, he turned to Ryan. "The human vessels are demanding our surrender and your immediate return," Vrekul said, his translator unable to fully mask the tension in his voice. "They claim to have deployed a weapon that can disable all our ships in this sector." Ryan hadn't expected a rescue, let alone one with such overwhelming force. Earth must have developed new technologies far more rapidly than anyone had anticipated. "Surrender," Ryan urged. "Tell them what you told me about your homeworld. Humans can help you, but as partners, not as conquered subjects." For several long moments, Vrekul stared at Ryan, his alien features unreadable. Then, with what seemed like resignation, he turned back to the communications array. "This is Shipmaster Vrekul of the Galvari Dominion. We accept your terms of surrender." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Ryan was transferred to the lead human vessel, the UES Venture, where medical staff treated his injuries while military personnel debriefed him about his captivity and the critical information he'd discovered about Galvari shield technology. Admiral Sarah Weiss, commander of the human fleet, listened intently to Ryan's account of the Galvari's desperate search for water to save their dying homeworld. "If what you're saying is true," she said when he had finished, "this could change everything. But we'll need to verify their claims." "I understand the caution," Ryan replied. "But I believe they were telling the truth. Their ship had extensive data on deuterium extraction and terraforming technology. With proper diplomatic channels, we might find a solution that benefits both species." The Admiral nodded thoughtfully. "Your actions may have just created an opening for peace, Dr. Norris. That knife of yours has become quite famous in the last few hours." Ryan looked down at the blade, now cleaned and returned to him as a gesture of respect. Such a simple tool, yet it had revealed a critical vulnerability in supposedly superior alien technology and possibly opened the door to saving two civilizations. 2 days later, a diplomatic contingent from Earth arrived to begin formal negotiations with the Galvari leadership. Ryan was asked to participate as both a scientific advisor and as the unexpected catalyst for this historic moment. The Galvari, their military advantage neutralized by the discovery of their shield weakness, approached the negotiations with a newfound respect for humanity. Shipmaster Vrekul, now serving as the Galvari's chief representative, acknowledged Ryan with what appeared to be a gesture of respect when they reconnected in the conference room aboard the neutral vessel where the talks were being held. "Your blade has cut more than our shields, Dr. Norris," Vrekul said as they prepared for the first session. "It has cut through years of mistrust and fear." "Sometimes the simplest technologies reveal the most profound truths," Ryan replied. As the negotiations progressed over the following weeks, a framework for cooperation began to take shape. Earth would provide the Galvari with access to water resources, primarily from Saturn's ice moon Enceladus, rather than Earth itself, while the Galvari would share their advanced terraforming and propulsion technologies. During a break in one particularly intense session, Ryan found himself alone with Commander Kazarek, whose initial contempt had gradually transformed into a grudging respect. "I still do not understand how you knew the knife would penetrate our shields," Kazarek said. Ryan smiled. "I didn't." I was desperate and acting on instinct, but afterward, I realized what happened. Your shields are designed to disperse energy from high-velocity impacts and energy weapons. A slow-moving, solid object with a sharp edge falls below the threshold of what your shields are programmed to stop. Kazarek's multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession, what Ryan had come to recognize as the Galvari equivalent of thoughtful consideration. A simple oversight with profound consequences, the commander said. Our engineers became so focused on defending against advanced weapons that they forgot the basics. There is a lesson in this. There usually is, Ryan agreed. 6 months later, Ryan stood on the observation deck of the Joint Human Galvari Research Station orbiting Enceladus. Below them, harvesting operations were underway, collecting water from the moon's subsurface ocean through its natural geysers. The water, rich in deuterium, would help save the Galvari homeworld while also fueling a new generation of fusion reactors for Earth's colonies. Beside him stood Vrekul, now Ambassador Vrekul, and Admiral Weiss. Together, they watched as the first shipment prepared to depart for the Galvari system. Your knife is now displayed in our war academy, Vrekul told Ryan. A reminder to our future commanders never to underestimate simpler technologies or the species that wield them. Admiral Weiss laughed. And we've completely redesigned our shield systems based on what we learned from yours. The next knife won't get through so easily. Let's hope there won't be a need for such tests again, Ryan said. He had kept his original knife, now mounted in a display case in his new quarters. Every time he looked at it, he was reminded of how close both species had come to prolonged conflict. As the transport ship engaged its Galvari human hybrid engines and accelerated away from Enceladus, Ryan reflected on the strange journey that had brought them to this point. One desperate act with a simple tool had changed the course of two civilizations. The research station continued its orbit of Enceladus, now a symbol of cooperation rather than conquest. In the labs below, human and Galvari scientists worked side by side, combining their knowledge to address challenges facing both species. Ryan had been appointed director of xenobiology, studying the unique adaptations of the Galvari to their changing homeworld environment. His work frequently brought him into contact with Kazarek, who had transitioned from military command to overseeing security for the joint operation. Their initial adversarial relationship had evolved into a professional partnership, and gradually, something approaching friendship. The first terraforming test on your third colony world shows promising results, Kazarek mentioned one day as they reviewed data from the latest experiments. The water purification process has reduced radiation contamination by 78%. Better than we projected, Ryan noted, studying the holographic display. At this rate, you might be able to begin reintroduction of native species within 5 years instead of 10. Kazarek made the chittering sound that Ryan now recognized as the Galvari equivalent of a contemplative sigh. 5 years ago, we had abandoned hope for that world. Now, because of a scientist with a knife, we prepare to make it habitable again. Ryan had grown accustomed to the aliens' tendency to reference the knife incident, though it still made him uncomfortable. What had been a desperate act of survival had become something of a legend among both humans and Galvari. The knife just opened the door, Ryan said. It's what we chose to do afterward that matters. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the station's communication system. An urgent message from Earth required Ryan's immediate attention. He excused himself and headed to his office, where the encrypted transmission awaited. The message was from Admiral Weiss, and its contents sent a chill through him. A faction within the Galvari Dominion, opposed to the alliance with humans, had launched attacks on 2 Earth outposts near Jupiter. The fragile peace they had worked so hard to build was threatened. Within hours, an emergency council convened on the research station. Representatives from both species gathered to address the crisis, tensions palpable in the room. Ambassador Vrekel appeared deeply troubled as he addressed the assembly. These attacks were carried out by the Purification sect, extremists who believe cooperation with other species is contamination, Vrekel explained. They do not represent the will of the Dominion, but they are dangerous and well-armed. Admiral Weiss, joining via holographic projection, was direct. We understand this isn't sanctioned by your government, Ambassador, but Earth's population is demanding a response. We need to act decisively before this escalates. Ryan listened as proposals were exchanged, some calling for military action against the extremists, others suggesting diplomatic isolation until the Galvari government resolved the internal threat. Neither approach seemed likely to succeed without causing further damage to the alliance. When there was a pause in the heated discussion, Ryan spoke up. We're approaching this the wrong way. The Purification sect wants to drive us apart to prove that cooperation is impossible. Our response should demonstrate the opposite. All eyes turned to him as he continued. What if we form a joint task force, human and Galvari forces working together to address this threat? It would show both our worlds that this alliance isn't fragile, it's strong enough to face challenges together. The room fell silent as the representatives considered his proposal. Eventually, Ambassador Vrekel nodded slowly. Dr. Norris once again cuts to the heart of the matter, he said. I support this approach and will recommend it to my government immediately. Within days, the Joint Task Force was formed. Ryan found himself appointed as a strategic advisor, his unique experience with both Galvari technology and psychology considered valuable. Kazarek, with his military background, was named as the Galvari commander of the operation. As they prepared to depart for Jupiter space, where intelligence suggested the extremists had established a hidden base, Ryan couldn't help but reflect on the irony of the situation. His knife had started them down this path of cooperation, and now he was helping to defend that legacy. The task force consisted of 3 human vessels and 2 Galvari ships, all modified with hybrid technology developed over the past months of collaboration. Their shields now incorporated dual-phase harmonics, designed to stop both energy weapons and physical projectiles, a direct result of the lessons learned from Ryan's knife. As they approached Jupiter's orbit, tension aboard the command ship was high. Intelligence reports indicated the extremists had captured an experimental weapons platform and were preparing to use it against Earth's largest Jovian colony. They will expect us to be divided, Kazarek said during the final briefing, to hesitate and argue among ourselves. This expectation is their weakness. Ryan nodded in agreement. Their ideology can't accommodate the reality of our cooperation. It contradicts everything they believe about interspecies relations. The task force detected the extremist base hidden within Jupiter's turbulent atmosphere, using a massive floating platform designed to harvest gases from the giant planet. As they moved into position to surround it, the enemy responded with unexpected ferocity. The first volley of energy weapons struck the lead human vessel, but its new hybrid shields held firm. The task force returned fire with precision, targeting the platform's propulsion systems rather than weapons, a strategic decision to minimize casualties and potentially capture the extremists alive. Ryan watched from the command center as the coordinated attack unfolded. Human and Galvari officers worked in seamless cooperation, each leveraging their species' strengths. The human vessels maneuvered with greater agility, while the Galvari ships provided overwhelming firepower. Just as it seemed they had gained the upper hand, sensors detected a massive energy buildup within the platform. "They're overloading the experimental weapon," called out a human tactical officer. "If it detonates in Jupiter's atmosphere, it could trigger a chain reaction in the gas layers." Ryan's scientific mind quickly processed the implications. Such a reaction could potentially alter Jupiter's delicate atmospheric balance, with catastrophic consequences for the entire solar system. "We need to board that platform and shut down the weapon manually," Ryan said. There's no time for remote hacking attempts. Kazarek immediately volunteered to lead the boarding party, and to Ryan's surprise, requested that he accompany them. Your insight into the weapon systems may be crucial, the commander explained. Within minutes, Ryan found himself aboard a small assault craft with Kazarek and a mixed team of human and Galvari soldiers racing toward the platform as the larger vessels provided covering fire. As they approached, enemy defenses targeted them with increasing desperation. Their craft took a direct hit just as they reached the platform, sending them crashing into a docking bay. The impact threw Ryan against a bulkhead, pain lancing through his shoulder as something cracked. Gritting his teeth, he extracted himself from the damaged craft alongside the others. "Are you injured?" Kazarek asked, noticing Ryan's pained movements. "Broken collarbone, I think," Ryan replied, wincing. "I can still function." Kazarek handed him a small device. "Emergency medical gel. It will stabilize the injury temporarily." Ryan applied the cool substance, feeling immediate relief as it hardened around his shoulder, creating a supportive structure. There was no time for proper medical attention. Sensors indicated the weapon's energy levels were approaching critical. The team fought their way through the platform's corridors, encountering fierce resistance from the extremists. Both humans and Galvari fell in the exchange of fire, but the mixed squad pushed forward with determined coordination. As they neared the central chamber housing the weapon, they were confronted by a massive security door. The human demolition expert examined it and shook her head. "Too thick for our charges. We'd need at least 15 minutes to cut through." "We don't have 15 minutes, Ryan said, checking the sensor readings. "That weapon will detonate in less than 10. Kazarek stepped forward, examining the door's control mechanism. "This uses our old security architecture before the Alliance." He turned to Ryan. "Do you still carry your knife?" Ryan understood immediately. He drew his combat knife, the same one that had cut through the shield months ago, and handed it to Kazarek. The commander carefully inserted the blade into a narrow seam in the control panel and manipulated it with precision, using it to bridge specific circuits. After 10 seconds, the massive door slid open, revealing the weapon chamber beyond. Inside, a handful of Galvari extremists worked frantically around a pulsing core of energy that dominated the center of the room. The leader of the extremists, distinguished by elaborate markings on his exoskeleton, turned to face them. "You defile our species by working with humans," he snarled at Kazarek. "Better to cleanse this system in fire than allow such contamination to spread." "Your ideology blinds you to reality," Kazarek replied calmly. "We face extinction without this alliance." While they exchanged words, Ryan slipped to a control console, analyzing the weapon systems. The overload was accelerating. They had less than 5 minutes before detonation. Disarming it would require simultaneous actions at multiple stations. "I need 3 people at different consoles," Ryan called out. "1 human. 2 Galvari. Your different hand structures are needed for different controls." A human technician and 2 Galvari soldiers moved to the positions Ryan indicated. Following his rapid instructions, they began the complex shutdown sequence while the rest of the team engaged the extremists. The battle was fierce but brief. The extremists fought with fanatical determination, but were outnumbered and outmatched by the coordinated tactics of the joint force. As the last extremist fell, Ryan's team was still working desperately to disarm the weapon. 30 seconds to critical," the human technician shouted. Ryan's fingers flew across the alien interface, applying everything he had learned about Galvari technology. Sweat beaded on his forehead as the countdown continued relentlessly. "Final sequence requires simultaneous input," one of the Galvari technicians announced. With perfect coordination born of months of cooperation, the 3 technicians executed the final commands. The pulsing core flickered, sputtered, and gradually dimmed as its power levels decreased. The platform systems automatically initiated containment protocols, securing the dangerous energy that had nearly been unleashed. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the chamber. They had succeeded with mere seconds to spare. As emergency teams secured the platform and treated the wounded, Ryan found himself standing with Kazarek near a viewport, looking out at Jupiter's swirling clouds. The gas giant's majesty was unchanged, its delicate atmospheric balance preserved. "Your knife has saved us again," Kazarek observed, returning the blade to Ryan. Ryan examined the knife, noticing new scratches on its well-worn surface. "Not the knife," he corrected. "What it represents the understanding that sometimes the simplest approaches are the most effective, and that we're stronger when we combine our different perspectives." The aftermath of the extremist plot brought unexpected benefits to the human Galvari alliance. The Joint Task Force's success demonstrated the tangible advantages of cooperation to skeptics on both sides. Support for the partnership strengthened, and collaborative projects expanded beyond the initial water-sharing agreement. 1 year after the Jupiter incident, Ryan stood on a terraforming platform on Mars, where Galvari technology was accelerating humanity's efforts to make the red planet habitable. Beside him stood Admiral Weiss, now promoted to oversee all joint operations in the solar system. "Hard to believe it's been 18 months since you were captured," she remarked, "since you cut that shield in half and changed everything." Ryan watched as massive atmospheric processors, built with Galvari designs but human materials, released carefully calibrated mixtures into the Martian air. In the habitat dome behind them, the first trees planted in Martian soil were beginning to thrive. "I was just trying to survive," he said. "I never imagined it would lead to all this." "The best discoveries often come that way," the Admiral replied. "Speaking of which, the Joint Research Team wants you back on Enceladus. They've found something interesting in the water samples, some kind of microbial life that might be compatible with both human and Galvari biology." Ryan's scientific curiosity was immediately piqued. "Compatible with both? That shouldn't be possible given our different biochemistries." "That's why they need you there," she said with a smile. "The impossible seems to happen around you with remarkable frequency." 2 weeks later, Ryan was back on the Enceladus research station, working alongside a mixed team of human and Galvari biologists. The discovery was even more significant than initially reported. The microorganisms found in Enceladus's subsurface ocean could potentially help the Galvari overcome the radiation poisoning affecting their population, while also offering humans new medical applications. As he worked late one night in the laboratory, Ryan was surprised to find Ambassador Vrakel entering the research area. The Galvari diplomat rarely visited the scientific sections of the station. "Ambassador," Ryan greeted him, "what brings you to the labs at this hour?" Vrakel approached the workstation where Ryan was analyzing cellular structures. "I came to inform you personally of a decision made by the Dominion Council. In recognition of your contributions to our species, you have been granted the status of Kalvik, one who changes paths. It is our highest honor for a non-Galvari." Ryan was stunned by the announcement. "I'm honored, Ambassador, truly." "There is more," Rakul continued. "The Council has approved funding for a joint mission to your Kuiper Belt, where surveys suggest water sources with even higher deuterium concentrations may exist. They have requested that you lead the scientific team." The opportunity was extraordinary, a chance to explore the outer reaches of the solar system with the combined technological capabilities of both species. Ryan didn't hesitate to accept. The knife that had started this journey now resided in a display case in the station's central atrium, visible to all who passed through. Beside it was a deactivated Galvari shield emitter, cut cleanly in half. Together, they served as a reminder of how a moment of desperate ingenuity had opened the door to unprecedented cooperation. As preparations for the Kuiper Belt mission got underway, Ryan often found himself pausing before that display, reflecting on the unpredictable path that had led from conflict to collaboration. The knife had revealed more than just a technological vulnerability. It had exposed the potential for two vastly different species to find common ground. 3 months later, as the joint expedition vessel departed Earth orbit, bound for the distant edges of the solar system, Ryan stood on the observation deck, watching his home planet recede into the darkness. Beside him stood Xeric, now his official liaison to the Galvari contingent. "Do you ever regret it?" Xeric asked unexpectedly. "The path that brought you here?" Ryan considered the question carefully. He had lost friends in the initial Galvari attack, had suffered injuries, and faced death. Yet those losses had led to a partnership that was benefiting billions across two worlds. "No," he said finally, "I regret the losses, the pain, the misunderstandings, but not where we've ended up." Xeric made the chittering sound that Ryan now recognized as agreement. "Among my people, there is a saying, 'The sharpest blade reveals the clearest truth.' Your knife showed us truth when we needed it most." As the ship accelerated toward the outer solar system, its hybrid engines propelling it faster than any previous human vessel, Ryan thought about the discoveries that awaited them. Whatever they found in the distant icy reaches of the Kuiper Belt would be analyzed by human and Galvari scientists working side by side, each bringing their unique perspectives to the challenge. It was a future neither species could have imagined before a desperate scientist with a knife revealed that even the most advanced technologies could be vulnerable to simple solutions, and that cooperation might be the most powerful technology of all.